It's all in the application, by the way. If you ever want to look at that in more detail, the whole description of how we evaluated this.
Well, that's a whole other issue. Like I was talking to you before, you know, I mean, I asked for a copy. I was told I could get an electronic copy of the permit application before the meeting, and then all of a sudden, Miss McGinnis says that one's not available, and that's why I was asking you whether you did it on a manual typewriter or something.
Well, the EPA and the NRC require you to submit hard copies, so that's why it was sent in that way. But getting back to one of your other previous questions about, you know, maybe manipulating the sampling data to show that the material's not hazardous. You know, there was no manipulation of any of the data. All the data that we obtained, you know, all the samples were not analyzed by Honeywell. They were analyzed by an independent third-party laboratory. And all the independent third-party laboratory reports were submitted to both the EPA and to the NRC.
But don't you think Honeywell knows what laboratories? I mean, you know, I've been involved in the environmental movement for a long time, and I know about the labs and you know, I mean, the level of skepticism that I have when I sit here and listen to you guys talking about how safe it's going to be, I mean, it just doesn't seem credible to me. I mean, I agree with the gentleman over here that said that it's about money. I wonder if what's the cost difference between having to treat it as to take it to a hazardous waste facility, or even like EnviroCare out in Utah. You know, if you had to either take it to a low-level radioactive waste dump or to Demopolis or someplace, you know, where there's a hazardous waste dump that can take F-listed waste or something that's hazardous waste, what's the cost difference between that and the on-site stabilization? I bet you it's probably millions of dollars.
It's not actually our place to talk about costs, I guess.
But Mr. Williams said in response to one of the other questions, you yourself admitted that it's part of the consideration.
It is.
So if it's part of the consideration and the public has a right to be involved in the permitting process, shouldn't you disclose that so the public's informed?
One thing to bear in mind, and kind of, and it'll be sounding like a broken record, but the EPA and the NRC will look at protection of human health and the environment regardless of cost. You know, if it costs you, you know, $100 million more to do something that's protective of human health and the environment, EPA will tell you, well, you're going to spend that money and do it. You know, the applications that we submitted to the NRC and the EPA, we believe are protective of human health and the environment and meet all the regulatory requirements. And then it's the EPA and the NRC, through their technical review process, you know, will make their independent determination.
So is there going to be, I've actually requested this to Illinois EPA and I've gotten a response yet, but is there actually, because see, I mean, even though this is being recorded, it's not going on an administrative record, and it's going to take a public hearing to actually get everybody to stand up and with the court reporter and all that for it to be made into a transcript and become part of the record. Is there going to be a hearing?
That is something, I'll speak to the EPA side of things, so I'm not sure how the NRC works it. But the way the EPA will most likely work it, we submitted the permit application, and they'll do their technical review of the permit application. When the EPA, they might ask for some questions, they might ask for some clarifications, they might ask for some additional information. But when EPA makes their tentative determination, whether it be to go ahead and approve the proposed closure plan or to deny the proposed closure plan, they will do kind of what Honeywell did when the permit application was submitted. They will publish either a draft permit approving the closure plan or a draft denial letter denying the closure plan. And they will send notices out to people on the facility's mailing list. They'll publish a notice in the local newspaper. They will put a copy of whatever their proposed decision document is, along with like a fact sheet kind of justifying or telling you why they made whatever decision they made in the library. And typically that's when the Illinois EPA, they'll always take public comments, but typically that's when the EPA, if they were to hold a public hearing, would hold a public hearing.
So this is the only public hearing that will be held on this matter?
No, this is not. This isn't a public hearing. This is just kind of a public meeting to get information out. It's not. It will not be for the. It's not the public's only opportunity to comment on it. Like I said, when the EPA reaches whatever decision that they believe they're going to make, whether it's to approve it or deny it, there's another opportunity for public comment.
So when is the end, just for the record, when's the end of the comment period for this permit modification application?
Or when we sent it in for the Illinois EPA, there's a 60-day public comment period, which is essentially the end of January.
I want to ask you something about this material.
End of January.
Your assessment is that this is non-hazardous waste, correct? Which implies that the cradle to grave requirement does not exist. Is that correct also?
No. No, the EPA requires, whether it's hazardous or non-hazardous, the EPA requires facilities to manage their waste in accordance with the applicable regulations, which would imply essentially for all of these cradle to grave.
So if Honeywell turns around and sells this plant or shuts it down 5 years from now, and material starts leaching out, well samples that are indicating high U, and Honeywell's no longer here, maybe even another company's here, Honeywell's going to come back and be financially responsible for correcting it? They're not going to be able to just pass this cheap fix over to the next owner?
It would really depend on how the sales agreement goes.
You're a former EPA, Illinois, so that's why I'm directing this question at you.
Right, and what the Illinois EPA would say would be the owner is responsible. But, as you guys probably know, you sell a piece of property, maybe the sales agreement has certain stipulations, but the EPA will always go back to the permitted owner of the facility.
So it could be a situation of do the cheapest fix now before they offload this site to somebody else.
Very possible.
Glad the gentleman brought up brickwork. I know you're not classifying this material as in that class, but one thing you got to remember is the Love Canal. One thing we've learned from the Love Canal is there's going to be somebody up there monitoring it for a long, long time. That's going to be a problem. It's not going to go away. That situation come about before a lot of regulation come about. It was done, what was it, in the early 1900s? I forget. I'm not that big a historian. We've got an opportunity now to do it right the first time, and not have a Love Canal or a mini Love Canal. You follow what I'm saying? That's my concern. Why would you want to do something planning on having to monitor it and keep up with it year after year? God knows how long. What'd you say? 2 million years?
4 million.
4 million years. I mean, why not take it out and process it? This gentleman says he doesn't want to put material in other states. I can sympathize with that. I wouldn't want people bringing stuff into my backyard and dumping it. There's got to be some way to process this material and take care of it, in a timely manner where we don't have to worry about it. My grandkids don't have to worry about it. That's, I think, what is on a lot of people's minds here.
Another thing, you said we know what's in that pond. There's sulfuric, caustics, HF. How is that stuff going to react with this polymer that you're going to put in there?
That's something.
I mean, we've seen the effects that it does to new concrete at the plant, like that. I mean, it'll eat concrete up. And we know there's low doses of that stuff in that material that's currently in the pump.
Right. And one thing that's going to happen during the design period
right now, we've done some preliminary testing just to see what percent, using Portland cement, would we have to add to get to the strength that we're looking for, and how's it going to behave, and how's it going to cure. We looked at that, but we've really just started that. In order for us to get our final mix design, to do the final closure, we're going to do a full set of treatability testing, pick a mix design that's going to work, to basically see how that material's going to behave, once it's cured, how long it's going to take to cure. So we're going to consider those issues during detailed design. It hasn't been selected yet, but we'll make sure we pick a mix that's going to do that.
But the ponds are supposed to be closed by 2020, right? Honeywell said we're gonna close them by 2012. Is that correct?
Allied Signal said the ponds will be closed by 2020, which is a permit.
But Honeywell said they're gonna do them by 2012, right? Plant manager must have lied to me when I was up there and him telling me this, and that's what he told us. What's the hurry? I mean, when is the time frame y'all want to come in and put the concrete in? I mean,
Well, I think we're looking at 2011, there'll be a review and comment period, and we'll talk to the agencies in 2012, detailed design will occur, and construction will start in 2013.
Yeah, it's tough to say when actual physical field work will begin, because it's all contingent upon getting approval from both the NRC and the EPA. Nothing will be done to begin closure of the pond.
well, my understanding, if the NRC is so much involved in this, why don't they have a representative here that can answer some of our questions and our concerns if they're involved in this?
From the NRC's perspective, the way they do their comment and review is somewhat different than IEPA. But the process that the NRC requires is you give them the technical submittal, they look at it for 60 days, and all they determine in the first 60 days is this long, complicated checklist of
You're right about the check that's written out and hung with the piece of paper they handle.
Well, it's the checklist
You're right
of
about
all the
that.
different things that you have to submit. So they're going to look at it for 60 days, and all they're going to decide in the first 60 days is if there's, I'll just pick an arbitrary number, there's 50 things that you have to address in this submittal, and they're going to look and say, do you have the 50 things or not?
The NRC has no knowledge about these ponds, how they need to be closed. They're depending on what knowledge y'all give them. So our concerns, y'all are not answering all our concerns. They're taking y'all's word. The NRC will be taking all y'all data that y'all got and gathered. So
what the NRC will do is they'll take the information that we've given them, and after they've looked at it to see that we've given them from a perspective of, let's say 50 things are required, the 50 things are there, and they're going to take the information that we give them. They're going to do their own analysis, and they're either going to come to the conclusion that they agree with what we have, they disagree with what we have, or they need more information.
Well, I can
they're
say
going to go through
this.
a formal review process. And
there's
they're not-
nobody in this audience right here agrees that that's below, the uranium's below enough that you can stick concrete in there. Because we've been in that facility, we know we've hauled calcium fluoride out there that's too high that we cannot haul out, that we've got to mix. So I don't believe that your study is truthfully, and I don't think anybody in here believes your data's truthful. For me to believe you, I think that we should to do the testing again, and that we need somebody, another independent agent that we want in there with you to gather the data. Because I don't believe it's below the RICA of 500 is it 500 that we can ship it out. I just don't see that in them ponds. And Daryl's worked out there. There is no way.
What are you guys going to do with these questions we're asking?
Well, I guess we don't talk
that trash can and you go up
trash
door?
can and you go up
No,
door.
I'm
No,
serious.
no. These are,
What
can
we're-